What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, and it's Top 10 Thursday. You know, when you think about it, video games are really complex. It's not just the fact that we're watching a hero, it's that we get to be the hero. If you're enjoying the story of something like Babysitting Mama, it's not that you're just watching a babysitter, it's that this baby's life is in your hands. Your decisions determine what happens to it. So trying to change that into a film, it's a little bit messed up, and it can go wrong very easily. So this week, I want to honor the people who managed to screw it up the worst. Let's take a look at the games that were turned into movies that are absolute dumpster fires. These are my picks of the top 10 worst video game movies. Number 10. Super Mario Bros. This is one of the first adaptations we ever saw, and also one that's probably the most confusing. They just changed so much. Now, the fact that it takes place in Manhattan, I can kind of deal with. The fact that it's underground and takes place in this weird city with giant Goomba monsters, that sort of makes sense. But where it completely loses me is the fact that there is a giant boss named King Koopa who's played by an actor obviously high on cocaine. There were so many parts of this movie that as a little kid just made me want to cry. They were so bizarre. And now as an adult rewatching it, I realized that nobody in this movie probably even played the games. Number 9. Warcraft. This movie's always been really interesting to me ever since it came out because it's extremely bad, and it shouldn't be. The actual story of Warcraft is phenomenal. It really kind of shows such a humanizing look of war itself. There aren't always good guys, there aren't always bad guys, and the struggle between the Horde and the Alliance is really dynamic. They decided to just throw all that in a garbage can and instead try to make this a cheesy action film, and I don't really understand why. The flashy special effects were interesting, but they never really tried to have any sort of point, and so many of the scenes in this almost seem like they were cut out of different movies and just shoved into this. I really don't know why they didn't just read one of the great Warcraft books and turn that into a film. Instead, they were just pretty much happy making a complete freaking trash heap. Number 8. Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. I'm a big fan of the idea that if you're trying to make a comic book or a film based on a video game, you need to take it in a different direction. Establish yourself by being different, and that's what this movie tried, but oh man does it fail. This follows Chun-Li trying to investigate all these secret people in a fighting organization, and it's just so cheesy. The biggest thing that makes it fail is that the acting is atrocious. Her partner is this weird dude who just always talks like this. I was investigating this crime syndicate until everybody went missing, one by one. When you're talking like that, I can never take it seriously, and so whenever there's big dramatic battles, I'm too busy laughing to actually worry about if these characters are going to be okay. The worst part of all, though, at the very end, the dramatic conclusion is that she has this giant first Hadouken, and it is so ridiculously over the top that when I saw this in theaters, everybody was laughing until they had tears in their eyes. Number 7. Need for Speed. This classic car franchise is something that I thought would be really easy to turn into a film because we've already seen great racing movies. When I first heard about it, I actually had pretty high hopes. I was thinking that it was going to be something kind of like Gone in 60 Seconds. Have heroes that are forced to do bad stuff like compete in illegal races or steal cars. Instead, they kind of tried to take it a little bit too seriously and make it a little too dark. Aaron Paul plays this street racing mechanic who happens to be this prodigy driver and is forced to compete in this race of supercars to try and win millions of dollars to get his friend out of debt. And it gets so convoluted, but what really kind of struck me is it seemed like they tried to write the script while they were filming it. You'd see characters get together and discuss a certain plot point, and then they just randomly get in cars, get in a 30-minute race that kills about 50 people on the road, and then they just go right back to being like, man, I just don't know what's right and wrong. Well, let me tell you, buddy, you are wrong. If you're killing that many people in street races, I don't care if you're trying to help people out, you're probably the villain of this story. Number 6. Resident Evil Afterlife. Growing up, I was obsessed with horror games, and one that always scared me the worst was Resident Evil. These are so great because they're so simple. It's just about you trying to escape horrific situations and try and shoot your way out of monster-filled cities. It's easy to love them because it's just so straightforward. When they began making them into films, it started off really strong. I'd say the first two Resident Evil movies are fantastic, but as they went on, they began to get worse and worse. This is because the director actually bought the rights to the film and married the lead actress, Milla Jovovich, and so he just kept making movies because they made cash for him and his wife. He didn't really care if they were good, and he even admitted in interviews that all he was really concerned about is making people entertained enough to buy another ticket. This movie specifically is the worst in the franchise in my opinion because they don't really fight even that many monsters. The main hero, Alice, spends a bunch of time just chopping up other humans and SWAT soldiers and stuff. What the heck? It's like missing the main point. If I'm going to be playing a game like this, it's because I want to see big cool monsters. If you're turning this into a movie, guess what? I am there for big cool monsters. Lose that and you lost me. Number 5. Hitman. This series got a huge following as soon as it came out because watching Agent 47 work is so mesmerizing. He's a guy who's trained to use every weapon and survive every scenario, and because of it, he has assigned only the most deadly of targets to try and take out. If you're turning that into a movie, I'd hope that it'd try and follow some of his missions gone wrong, show us some of the more hardcore stuff he's had to deal with. They didn't quite do that though. Instead, they kind of showed a more human look at a character that I think was interesting because he wasn't human. This movie screwed up so much, but what really killed it for me personally was when it just got to cartoonish levels of action. There's a scene towards the end of the movie where 4 guys get into a train, they all have guns pointed at each other, and he goes, "How about we handle this like men?" So they all put their guns away at once, all get out identical swords, and start getting in a 4-way sword fight. It is so dumb that every time I see that movie, I just want to skip that scene. Why would you and all of your clone buddies get together and be like, ching, 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 ching? Don't do that. Show us him kicking ass with sniper rifles and actually completing a mission instead of just screwing around in a train. Number 4. Silent Hill Revelation. On the smoky streets of this abandoned city, there's almost infinite possibilities. The town of Silent Hill is cursed. Those who get stuck there have the city itself warp itself to their worst nightmares. It makes it where you're actually hunted by your inner demons. That is so cool, and it's something that I think makes the games really special. Now, I think that they did the first movie very, very smart. They stuck to the original game and changed small details to make it a little bit more fluid. I like that. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that I love the first Silent Hill movie. For the second one, though, it just seemed so sloppy. A big problem is the fact that they spend too much time trying to explain stuff. They set up new rules, they try and bring in new characters, and all along, it keeps seeming like they're trying to say, wait, please don't leave the theater. And you know what? I wanted to. Even by the time Pyramid Head shows up and starts kicking butt, the whole time I kept just saying, why? We have so many good Silent Hill games and comics. Why don't we just adapt that? They wanted to try and go somewhere else, and in my opinion, they should have just left this action somewhere outside Silent Hill entirely. Number 3. Assassin's Creed. Right now, just think about this. What is the number one thing you like about the Assassin's Creed series? Let me guess, before you tell me, I'm gonna guess it's the great settings. Right? It's seeing a character from the modern day thrown into the ancient past to pick up weapons that are long gone and try and fight in wars that we don't even have much records of. That is what is so enthralling, and it really keeps this series addictive. However, if they were turning this into a movie, what's the biggest mistake you could make? Would it be setting it in modern day? Because that's what they did. This follows Michael Fassbender trying to go on this epic quest where he's stuck in a laboratory, and he does go to the past, but in very short segments. Basically, the action is these tiny set pieces, and then for the most part, he's walking around in a white shirt and white pants in a big white room, being really, really boring. I don't know how they made this so bad. And it really just kind of makes me think, did you guys even look at a cutscene of the game? Seriously, taking out all the cool historical aspects of Assassin's Creed is like taking the freaking battles out of a Final Fantasy. We play these for the story, but it's also because the combat itself is freaking top notch. Taking away half destroys the other. This is something that should have been changed into some sort of weird period piece. They should have set it in the ancient past and, in my opinion, cut out modern day altogether. Number 2. Alone in the Dark. Over the last couple of years, this franchise has kind of become really obscure. Nobody's talking about Alone in the Dark as much as they used to, and I think that's a real shame. This series was really great for survival horror because it did something that I didn't see anybody else doing, and that was go really deep into the paranormal aspect. You're fighting ghosts and dealing with ancient relics and all sorts of cool stuff that I thought it felt very much like a X-Files horror game, and I personally ate it up. However, when they decided to turn this into a movie, it seemed like nobody cared except for the actors themselves. The people in the movie seem like they wanted to do something great, but the script makes no sense. The main character is like a guy with amnesia who used to be part of a secret government organization that hunted down monsters, and it just tries to do so many plot twists that seriously, I've watched this movie 3 times from start to finish by myself while trying to pay full attention, and I still don't quite get it. There are just so many weird twists and turns that I honestly think that it was not edited. It seems like they just shot the whole movie in order, put it on DVD, and went, good luck. This is what I consider one of the laziest movies ever made, and it's a real shame because Alone in the Dark deserves more respect. Number 1. The House of the Dead. Oh god, I don't even want to talk about this movie. Here we go. If there's one thing that absolutely annoys me in films, it's when they're just nothing but cliches. When they just try and do stuff that's been done a million times before and they do it worse. This movie follows a cast of really boring, really typical teenagers who decide to go on an epic party, bro, so they get a boat to go out to this island rave. Oh, what's the island called? The Island of the Dead, because of course it is. And when they get there, it turns into an absolute zombie slaughter fest. Now, that alone is incredibly annoying, but on top of that, there is so many really ridiculous moments in this. Stuff that is just so appalling. Like, first and foremost, they actually cut in pieces of gameplay to the movie itself. Now, keep in mind, freaking House of the Dead looks like this. Is that the kind of gameplay you want to see in a movie? This is a multi-million-dollar budget. I mean, I'm not sure how much of that was spent on booze for partying on the Island of the Dead, but from start to finish, this movie is nothing but bad ideas, goofy characters, and death scenes that look like they were filmed by cell phone light. Perhaps you're wondering how a movie this bad could even be created, and it's because of this man, Uwe Boll. This guy has actually admitted on record the fact that he makes bad movies because he can write them off on his taxes. He's found a weird loophole where each year he makes the worst movie he possibly can, films part of it in Germany, and then he can write it off on his taxes because he's already a millionaire. That means that he just keeps finding really bad excuses to make really, really bad art, and this is just another one of his ridiculous film victims. House of the Dead is not a series that needs any kind of real charm or anything to it. House of the Dead is fun because of just how cheesy it is. But this is 10 times too far. And that is why I'm awarding it my pick as the absolute worst video game movie. Did your favorite bad movie not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. This thing is so creepy to me, but I actually bought it. Years and years ago, it came into my store when I was working at this bookstore, and they were like, I don't know what to do with this baby. And I was like, I'll take it. I'll take the collection. And now I still have had this for all these years, and I realized I should really try and throw that thing away. It's just too weird. It's giving me nightmares. Oh, hi. I'm just working on the next video. If you want to see what it is, go ahead and click this button and you can subscribe. Also, if you click these video links, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. Now I'm just going to sit here for a minute and wait for you to subscribe. Oh, I guess I could put on these giant glasses. I literally found these on a roller coaster.